I think in my reading of the deposition transcript, Jack Smith was very clear that it wasn't just one riot on one day, that January 6th was a culmination, and that there was an entire scheme, and the scheme was the crime.
Yes.
Do I have it right that you were intentional with your question?
Yeah, no, I was very intentional, because what I wanted him to do is lay out the case that he made in the report. I essentially wanted him to corroborate the facts and the evidence that he found, because I know that a lot of people didn't read that report. You know, the deposition was behind closed doors. The testimony was released right before Christmas. Nobody was looking at that. And so I was very clear that I wanted him to lay out the case of how Donald Trump attempted to steal the election. And it was all the pressure leading up to the election and on the day of January 6th that was so compelling. And so that series of questions was really designed to bring that out. And then the second thing I wanted to do was the impact on the democracy, the toll that it takes on the democracy. And when I asked him those questions, he said what he said to me behind closed doors, which was, it's catastrophic. Why is it catastrophic? Because if this person, the most powerful person in the United States, can get away with trying to steal an election and isn't held accountable, what does that mean for the rule of law, for anybody else? And what does it mean for future elections that may not turn out as well as this one did? We were able to stop Donald Trump from stealing this election, but it's not to say that he doesn't try again or somebody doesn't try again. So those were really the two goals that I had for my questioning. And I wanted to not be mired down in what Republicans were trying to do. I wanted to talk about what Jack Smith did in his investigation, what he found in his investigation.
And that was important, because you were in my estimation, the perfect repost to what we saw coming from the attacks by Republicans. They came with hyperbole, bull, noise, lies, distortions. And you just like, okay, let's just walk through this. Did this happen? Yes. Did the president do this? Yes. Was this? And so that's how you do narrative, through questions.
Yeah.
Where I have a little bit of a fall, and we were talking about this before, is the consistency in the narrative is important.
Yeah.
Because I think the most stunning thing about Jack Smith being in public today was what Jack Smith said when he was in private.
Yeah.
And that part was what you needed to reinforce, which is what you did.
Yeah.
But I have to say that was not narratively pushed by other Democrats. They should have pivoted off of what you did and what others like you did to keep that that line of questioning. I don't have to go on all this drama and trying to show up Republicans. I'm just going to say, hey, Jack, did the President of the United States do X? And Jack going to go, yes. Did he pressure state officials? Yep. Reinforcing that. So I have to give you that part of it. But then the reason why that's important, because you had so many efforts by other Republican members to sort of paint Jack Smith as a vagabond, as a liar, as someone who didn't know what he was doing. He couldn't remember this. You didn't know that. You didn't. $20,000. You spent $50 million. You don't know where the money went. Talk about that part of the hearing so people can contextualize that as well.
Well, I thought the thing that was so important to know from listening to the Republicans is they never were able to touch any of the facts of the investigation. They didn't even try. They didn't try to question the facts, the evidence,
some of them are
case.
caught up in those facts, so.
Yes, but to me, that shows the strength of Jack Smith's investigation and his findings. And he was very clear every time we asked him about it that, yes, his investigation found proof beyond a reasonable doubt that Donald Trump committed the crime of trying to steal an election. And what Republicans did is they played around the edges. They took, some tactical questions about, some payment that you made here or some person that you talked to here. What was the role? Who interviewed you? Did you have to take the oath of office again or, swear an oath again because Merrick Garland didn't trust you? I mean, it was ridiculous to me what they were trying to do. Now, They always deliver it like a show. They did that again today. But I thought they were so weak on taking on any substance of what Jack Smith actually found. And I think the reason is because they know they can't touch it. They were not comfortable saying that Donald Trump didn't try to steal an election. None of them made that case. They were not comfortable themselves because they ran from those insurrectionists on January 6th.
And their comments afterwards believed that Donald Trump did exactly what Jack Smith said he did.
That's right. And so I think that, to me, they showed how weak their hand was. And Jack Smith showed how strong his hand was. He didn't back away from anything. And whatever they want to say about Jack Smith, you can't really make it real when the guy is so poised, so confident in his information, in his facts, and compelled by the evidence that he collected. And so I think that at the end of the day, this was a win for democracy because what we needed is for Jack Smith to tell the story. Now, the whole story hasn't been told. And the reality is there's a whole second piece. He got two major indictments, right? One was around the interference in the 2020 election. The other one was around the mishandling of classified documents after he was out of office. And that report should have been released by the judge, who originally said her rationale for it was, we can't release it because his co-defendants are still have their cases pending. Those cases were dismissed by the Trump administration. And so now there is no reason for that report not to be out. And once again, this whole thing has been a massive cover-up. And, we know Epstein is a cover-up. We know there's so many different pieces of this that are cover-ups. What happened on January 6th, what happened with the classified documents, the federal crimes that Donald Trump committed that Jack Smith was ready to prove in court. He had the evidence, and he was confident beyond reasonable doubt that he would win.
And instead,
that
Congresswoman,
is what we still need to put out.
And instead, Congresswoman, what you have is Trump's team asking Eileen Cannon to rule that it should not be released to past, present, future DOJ staffers.
And what's so stunning about that, Alicia, is he's asking his own DOJ.
Yes.
I mean, he's essentially trying to get an injunction against his own DOJ to not release that report.
And let's just play this out, though. If by any miracle it were released, Congressman Raskin has already said he would want Jack Smith to come back and to be able to testify based on those newly released documents. What would be your number one question if you got him back in the chair?
I'm going to do the same thing, Alicia. I'm going to go through the evidence that he collected that shows beyond a reasonable doubt that this is what Donald Trump did. He actually mishandled those classified documents. He stored them in places he shouldn't have, and then go through the evidence of what was uncovered in those documents. So I think that's really where I would go with it, because the best thing that we have going for us is the investigation itself, what it uncovered, and the fact that it was beyond a reasonable doubt that Donald Trump committed these crimes. Had we been able to go and prosecute those, and if those charges hadn't been dropped, we wouldn't be in the situation of having Donald Trump in office today.